today's meeting. We are happy to have you here, whether you're joining in person or online. We hope you'll continue to participate in whichever manner you feel most comfortable. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you again for everyone who is joining us tonight. Before we move through the agenda, I will explain our updated general comment registration process and remind everyone about the rules of decorum for council meetings. Individuals may register to comment on scheduled public hearing items until the hearing is closed. For the general comment section, we will accept sign-ups until 7:30 p.m. The general comment section has been changed to 1 hour. If you're here to give general comment, not everyone who signed up may be able to speak. I'd like to run through our meeting rules. These are designed so that we can conduct city business, ensure that the meeting is safe, orderly, and free from intimidation. We will not be giving multiple warnings about the following rules. To keep our reactions from affecting your ability to share your opinion freely, council members refrain from reacting or responding to allow everyone to share their opinions freely. When making your comments, please address the body and not any one individual elected official. If you have a handout for the council, please do not approach the dais. You can raise your hand and council staff will assist you. Council staff are available during or after the meeting to help with any questions or information sharing. Avoid the use of threatening and discriminatory language. Do not insult others based on religion, ethnicity, race, color, gender, sexual orientation, or physical ability. Whether you agree or disagree with someone's comments, clapping, cheering, shouting, booing, snapping, gesturing, obstructing, or discouraging others from commenting is not allowed. The full meeting rules are listed at the door, and our staff will post the link in Zoom. This brings us to item A4, approving the work session meeting minutes of February 20th, 2024, April 16th, 2024, May 14th, 2024, and May 21st, 2024. I'll look for a motion.
Move for approval.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved by Councilmember Petro and seconded by Councilmember Dugan. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Great, it's unanimous. This brings us to the council public hearing section of our agenda, which are specific proposals before the council that require a public hearing, and your comments need to pertain to the hearing topic. If your comments go off topic, we will ask you to stop. This will serve as your only warning. If you'd like to comment in these public hearing items today, we are accepting comments in person and online on Zoom. You can sign up to comment until the hearing is closed. If you need to speak with our staff, please raise your hand in the room or in Zoom, and a staff person will assist you. For those of you in Zoom, our staff person, London Kelly, can assist you with registration issues or technical questions. Taylor Hill on our staff will be calling those who wish to comment based on the order we receive the names. If you're on Zoom, please unmute your mic when Taylor calls your name. Each person will have 2 minutes, and we will call on each person who has signed up to speak. Just a reminder, our goal is to create and keep a safe space for everyone to share and participate in the meeting. So please follow our public comment rules when making your remarks. Disruptions or threats to anyone's safety are not allowed. If anyone uses discriminatory language, curses, or if a disruption occurs, we will pause your comments to remind you of the rules before you continue. With that, I will turn it over to Taylor to call our first individual for public comment. Oh, just kidding, we won't. I am first going to introduce the item. Our first public hearing, B1, is for an ordinance zoning incentives for adaptive reuse and preservation of building text amendments. Before we begin taking comment, I'll turn the time over to Brian Fulmer, Council Staff Policy Analyst, to give us a short introduction.
Can you check on the top of the mic? There should be a little green button down at that baseline.
This is a proposal from the administration to amend the zoning ordinance to encourage and support adaptive reuse and preservation of buildings. City code currently has several barriers which complicate reuse of buildings, and the proposal addresses these and adds incentives encouraging building reuse citywide.
Thank you, Brian. We will now take comments related to the text amendment. Taylor, please start with our first public comment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There is one person registered to speak to this item. That will be Jen Colby. Jen, you may now unmute.
Good evening, Jen Colby, District 4 resident. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great. I am very much in support of adaptive reuse, and I'm glad to see that the city is moving forward on more ways to promote this. We can see adaptive reuse allows to continuation and preservation of the character and quality of our city. Of course, it can be extremely expensive because previous building codes and standards and materials were not always optimal. So things like asbestos, earthquakes, and that sort of thing can be expensive, as well as just the entire process. Unfortunately, developers have found it much simpler to knock a lot of things down and replace it with what we're seeing as very boring, generic podium style construction or big egocentric and energy wasting glass towers across our city. So anything you can do is terrific. I would say that the details don't matter. I'm specifically calling out the parking requirements. I fully support removing all minimum parking. Parking requirements look like they're rational and technical, but just like traffic engineering, as recently shown in the wonderful book Killed by a Traffic Engineer, which you should all get and read immediately. They are not based in science, they're completely arbitrary, and they harm adaptive reuse. I would say remove all requirements for parking if developers or people who want to reuse their buildings meet the requirements for car parking. And don't forget, there's also a bike parking requirement. So we want to up the bike parking. We want to increase the things we want in our city and decrease incentives for the things we don't want. Cars can be useful tools, but they're often the wrong tool for the job, and cars ruin cities, even electric ones. So take a look at that again. Please do something to promote reuse, and I would even say make it easier and reduce the fees. Thank you very much.
And that was the only registered commenter for this item.
Excellent. Thank you for your comment, Jen. I'll look for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that the council close the public hearing and defer action to a future council meeting.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Madam Chair, I'm open to this motion, but I'm also open to adopting tonight if other council members would. I don't know what the...
Am I?
So I will pull my motion.
Okay, then I guess I'll make a motion that close the public hearing and adopt the ordinance.
Second.
All right. Is there any discussion to the motion?
Yeah, I think this was a great incentive, and ultimately it's seeking to reduce harm that we've seen in the past. So I agree with some of the constituents, and I know this will help especially preserve in those neighborhoods that may not be in a historic neighborhood, but those homeowners want to take advantage of it.
Excellent. Any others? All right. So seeing none, the motion's been moved by Council Member Mono and seconded by Council Member Lopez Chavez. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Right. Our next item, B2, is for an ordinance zoning map amendment at 1544 and 1550 South, 900 West. Before we begin taking comments, I will first turn the time over to Brian Fulmer, Council Staff Policy Analyst, to give a short introduction. Brian.
This is a proposal to amend the zoning map for properties you mentioned in Council District 2 from their current R1 7000 or single-family residential zoning to RMF 30, which is low-density multifamily residential zoning. The petitioner's stated objective is to construct attainably priced for-sale townhomes on the site. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. We will now take comments related to the zoning map amendment. Taylor, please start with our first public comment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There is one person registered to speak to this item. That will be Paul Garbett. Paul is here in person.
Good evening. I'll keep it really brief. I was just planning on commenting if there was any questions or if I need to clear up any items, but I think you've all been briefed on it. So thanks for considering.
Great. Thank you, Paul, for your comment. I'll look for a motion.
Madam
Chair, I move that the council close the public hearing and adopt the ordinance.
Second.
It has been moved by Councilmember Petro and seconded by Councilmember Mono. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Excellent. Passes unanimously. All right. Our final item is B3 for an ordinance confirming the compensation adjustments for executive municipal officers of Salt Lake City Corporation. Before we begin taking comments, I will first turn the time over to Jennifer Bruno, Deputy Director, to give a short introduction.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The background on this is the state adopted Senate Bill 91 in 2024 legislative session, which requires a separate public hearing for any compensation increases for executive municipal officers. Under the final definition or the final version of the law, this definition does not include elected officials, but does include city department directors and deputy directors, as well as some statutory officers. The city intended to comply with this requirement throughout the fiscal year 25 annual budget process and had a separate ordinance listed relating to compensation. Following the last budget public hearing, however, the attorney's office noted some language issues that could be interpreted to be a gap in complying with this law. So to be extra cautious, the council is holding this hearing to address the requirement in the law. These compensation adjustments, along with everything else in the fiscal year 25 budget, that was approved by the council in June, will be finalized when the council adopts the budget following the Truth in Taxation hearing on August 13th. So that's the background. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, Jen. We will now take comments related to the compensation ordinance. Taylor, please start with our first public comment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There is no one registered to speak to this item.
Excellent. I will look for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that the council close the public hearing and adopt the ordinance confirming the compensation adjustment for executive municipal officers.
Second.
Excellent. It's been moved by Councilmember Dugan and seconded by Councilmember Petro. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. All right. We have no potential action items today. So that will bring us to any questions for the mayor. Mayor, thank you for being here tonight.
I just want to express this. I don't think the average constituent will know the amount of hours that just went into what we presented during work session. And I want to thank you, Mayor, and your team. Like, just the most exceptional minds. So much patience. This was a test of not just insight and intellect and visioning, but also interpersonal resilience. And so I feel really honored to serve at a time with you all and to stand among particularly so many women in leadership, which we haven't had the experience in history to lead out on a project this big. And so I stand by my contention that I need to be Eeyore for at least another week and marinate in the possibilities and play defense. But in truth, I'm just really proud of the work that we accomplished and the possibilities that have the options to become realities because of it. So I want to thank you for your leadership and participation.
Thanks, Councilmember, and kudos to Katie Lewis and Jennifer Bruno, Rachel Otto, and Allison Parks, and Nick Tarbett as well. This was a Herculean effort, and I too am grateful and proud. Thank you.
Excellent. Any other council members? Great. Thank you, Mayor. All right, we are now at the general comment portion of our agenda and welcome your comments on any item of interest. If you're joining us after 7:30 and missed the opportunity to sign up, which you didn't, there are 14 more minutes. The staff do have written comment cards available to you that are available to anyone in the room if you choose to make comment in that fashion. Please raise your hand and council staff members are happy to assist you. Before we begin taking comments, we like to emphasize our rules that any behavior that is threatening, disruptive, or creating an unsafe environment will not be tolerated. We are not able to maintain when we are not able to maintain these rules, we've had members of the public feel intimidated and leave the meeting. So if any of the rules are not being followed, we will ask staff to assist you out of the meeting. It is, if the standard is not being observed, we will call a recess. As a reminder for those joining in Zoom, London Kelly from our staff will moderate our Zoom and message you with any questions about your registration. If you need assistance, raise your hand and select London from the list of participants. Please limit messages to technical issues and minimal information updates. Taylor Hill on our staff will be calling those who wish to comment in the order of registration or collected comment cards. If you're on Zoom, please unmute your mic when Taylor calls your name. If you are in person, please feel free to come up and stand in line when you hear your name called. Please avoid interruptions so that we may have as many people speak during the hour as possible. The host will announce time at the 2-minute mark and your microphone will be muted. If you're unable to finish your comment, please share the rest via email or call our office. Contact information is listed at slccouncil.com. Please remember to follow our public comment rules when making your remarks. If anyone uses discriminatory language, curses, or disrupts the meeting, we will pause your comments to remind you about the rules before you continue. When making your comments, please direct them to the body, not a single elected official. Our goal is to maintain a safe and orderly meeting and to hear from as many of you as possible over the next hour. Taylor, you can begin with our first general comment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There are about 11 people registered for general comment. The first will be Scott Johnson, followed by Jerry Olson, and then Jen Colby. Scott, you may now unmute.
Thank you, and good evening, Mayor and Council. In hockey, high sticking is when a player misuses his stick above an opponent's shoulders. It's signaled by raising the arm with the other crossing the body in what might have looked like an obscene gesture, fittingly, and risk being considered a violation of meeting decorum had I been there in person. When severe enough and meant to harm, high sticking results in a major game misconduct penalty and ejection. With SB 272, sponsored by 2 state legislators whose districts don't include the city, let alone downtown, Utah legislators who ironically and hypocritically bristle at federal overreach committed high sticking it to voters, this council, and the city's autonomy and integrity. That's why I encourage voters who didn't get a chance to vote on the tax to act as referees, holding officials, supporting it accountable, and to consider making supportive grounds for a game misconduct and ejection from office. I recognize you cannot undo that bill, but you can assess a minor penalty by voting no on the tax increase. In that spirit, I want to address another appropriate analogy given the stereotype of toothless hockey players. Specifically at SCG's first public appearance before the council, Mike Mon said downtown, quote, is in need of some braces, close quote. I never got braces, but my family taught me the importance of good dental hygiene and to be happy and smile. So that comment stuck with me. Why focus on braces when the city is suffering from tooth decay? Housing affordability and severe homelessness are that decay, and they're festering while you're being asked to prioritize braces on an unreasonable timeline that risks distracting you from those chronic needs and severely inflating the cost of said orthodontia. Consider this: Governor Cox requested $220 million for homelessness. Legislators delivered barely a fourth of that at the last minute. Meanwhile, they found billions to lure pro sports team. Lastly, at SCG's initial NHL press conference, a reporter asked Ryan Smith if he thought he had president's support.
Next will be Jerry Olson, followed by Jen Colby, and then Bernie Hart. Jerry, you may now unmute.
This is unmuted, right? Okay. Thank you, Council and Mayor, for allowing the public to make comments. Personally, I am grateful for your service And I am grateful to have the opportunity to speak about what's going on in our neighborhood. We are at war. We have homelessness in our neighborhood in huge numbers. I don't need a gym membership. I sweat plenty picking up tons, copious amounts of trash. Have you ever been mistaken for a prostitute? I have, in my own front yard. Prostitution, drugs, homelessness, they all go together. I know that you're working hard. I am so grateful for what the police are doing. They are being so responsive. Coming here, our neighborhood was clear. We had 3 bicycle officers there. I thought, thank you. I did thumbs up, and I'm so grateful. I'm grateful for everything that's being done, but we are still at war. We are still at war. It's not done. I believe Salt Lake City has the opportunity to be very creative, collaborate with great minds to come up with solutions that are more lasting. It's not necessarily a homelessness situation. Mental illness, drug addiction, and generational poverty are at the core. Learning disabilities, human trafficking. I mean, I'm speaking to the choir. You all know this. I don't know what the solutions are, but I know that there's more that needs to be done. We all know.
Time.
Jerry, thank you. If you have additional comments, you're welcome to share them with their staff, and they'll share them with the rest of council. Taylor, if we can have our next commenter.
Next will be Jen Colby, followed by Bernie Hart, and then Alex Chiari. Jen, you may now unmute.
Yes, Jen Colby, District 4 resident. I am here again to express my complete opposition to the participation agreement sales tax increase and rezoning under SB 272. I want to give the Planning Commission great credit for their clean block and stop, unanimous negative recommendation against the zoning. Brenda Shear's comments should be read in their entirety by everyone and watched. And Brenda Shear is the example of true women's leadership in this city. Let's just say that this is not a revitalization bill. This is a monopolization bill. We have plenty of money already for the past 2 decades, frankly, even through the worst of our times, plenty of money going into downtown. Smith is late to the party and wants a 30+% match for his own private investments. I can't believe he's taking up this much of your time. I caught part of the work session and I'm frankly disgusted by the offer of a fee on tickets that would somehow create a slush fund for the city as a quid pro quo. Instead, that shows exactly how this should be funded. He could pay for it directly with his billions of dollars, and if he doesn't want to do that, he can put a fee on to pay himself back. This can be done completely privately. The public should have nothing to do with this. Let's be clear, a sales tax increase is incredibly regressive. Half of American households cannot afford a $400 emergency. This would take an estimated $200 a year. This is egregious that you would consider this as a citywide increase for a private luxury development, and any county facilities need to be paid for countywide in terms of anything that needs to be done in terms of facilities maintenance and that sort of thing. You can just not vote on this. There is no requirement to do anything. Please put this in timeout and let's let the clock run out. Thank you.
Next will be Bernie Hart, followed by Alex Chiari, and then Oscar Arvizu. Bernie is here in person.
Homelessness as the downtown folks try and do something about the people on the streets. It's just starting. But we've been doing some surveys and there's a few myths out there. And one of them is that people on the street, the campers, don't want help. Jose, 36, is a camper. He's been in 11 programs and he's dealing with a mental health issue, and he sleeps in Fairmont Park. Trevor is 41. He has been in 17 programs, is dealing with a mental health and addiction problem, and he also sleeps in Fairmont Park. Miguel is 67, has been in 21 programs, is dealing with mental health issues, and he sleeps in the Rio Grande area. Brandy is 52, has been in 18 different mental health or addiction programs, and sleeps in the Rio Grande area. Gail is 60. She has been in 17 different mental health programs and sleeps in the Rio Grande area. Doug is 60. He entered the Let Us Help You system when he was 14 years old. He has been in 11 programs and deals with addiction and mental health issues, and sleeps occasionally outside of City Hall. Lloyd, 51, has been in 16 different addiction programs and sleeps in Liberty Park. Jonathan, who entered the system at 12 years old, 12, is 51 now, has been in 18 different programs and is dealing with mental health issues, and he sleeps around the Mission. No Name entered the system at 11 years old. He's now 38. He's been in 10 different programs dealing with mental health and addiction issues and sleeps in Fairmont.
Bernie, thank you for your comments. You can certainly share the additional information with our staff, and they'll make sure it's shared across City Council.
Next will be Alex Hurai, followed by Oscar Arpizu, and then Liz Ward. Alex, you may now unmute.
Hello, my name is Alex Hirai, and I represent NextGen JA. It was heartening to hear that Japantown was included in the proposed agreement earlier today, and we appreciate the commitment the city has shown Japantown. We are eager to talk about the Japantown Streetscape project. At the beginning of this process, we were assured that the Streetscape project was safe and that the downtown revitalization project would not interfere with its completion. While it is understandable that plans change, it would put our community at ease to know the city's intentions when it comes to the timeline of the Streetscape project, especially considering the Streetscape had been approved and set to be put in place long before the current legislation for the Sports, Entertainment, Cultural, and Convention District was proposed. We believe this is an opportunity for SEG and the city to create a diverse space in the heart of the city that is authentic and honors the historical significance of Japantown and our state's history. Thank you for your work on this issue and involving our community and the funds pledged to Japantown thus far.
Next will be Oscar Arvizu, followed by Liz Ward, and then Mary Allison Sutins. Oscar, you may now unmute.
Hi, my name is Oscar Arvizu. My comments and concerns are about the Rush to SEG project. I'm not against new development, but more so against cheap and fast development that only benefits the developers and not the taxpayers helping to flip the bill. If you are forcing us to be investors and gambling with our city's future, we should have a say in the planning and not be force-fed somebody else's corporate investment dream. Right now, it's only vague promises with very little visual planning. Yes, this project has so much potential, but we cannot just leave it to SEG to decide what should be built. The public in the city should be a partner at the table as well. We should be working with developers with fresh ideas, which include future city planning, preservation, and sustainability. Maybe build a large world-class fine arts museum that incorporates Yumoka, work with the Japanese community, and make the largest U.S. city center Japanese garden throughout the entire area. Possibly add an elevated green trail like the High Line in New York, or a mass timber bridge that spans the area. We should be pushing developers to set up and build something beautiful that will make this a destination where people can meet up throughout the year. Another concern is a historic 1885 Lewis Hills house smack in the middle of this location. It is under contract and demolishing is permitted. The condition is amazing. The city should be making sure this building is not leveled before it's too late. like the historic Fifth Ward building. Hopefully, it will be saved or moved and incorporated into any future planning. It can easily be used as offices or something else like the 1857 Devereaux House, currently next to the Delta Center. Let's make sure we take a deep breath before we dive in. We all have to live with the aftermath, good or bad. In closing, this project needs to be more thought out before our taxes increase and include the feedback of all invested parties. Thank you for your time.
Next will be Liz Ward, followed by Mary Allison Soutinis, and then Steve Brosvik. Liz, you may now unmute.
Thank you. Thank you, Council and Mayor and staff for hearing my remarks. My name is Liz Ward. I'm a member of the Japanese Church of Christ and of SLC Next Gen JA, a group dedicated to amplifying the intergenerational voice of the Japanese American community. I've spoken before on this issue, so I would like to thank you all for your continued involvement and dedication to Japantown. And I echo Alex Hirai's comments and questions on the RDA-approved Japantown streetscape plans. Thank you all for the negotiations, council, mayor, staff, and SCG incorporating Japantown in the participation agreement. I was so excited to see the $5 million floor of funding included in this draft. I know that the Japanese American community will need to quickly but thoughtfully review the draft participation agreement that was released this afternoon. I appreciated the meeting requirement included in the draft and would request 1, that these meetings start as soon as possible to guide the process, 2, that they occur more frequently as plans begin, and 3, that meetings continue beyond the initial design process as construction will directly impact our daily operations. That's it for me. Thank you.
Next will be Mary Allison Soutinis, followed by Steve Brosvik, and then Rebecca Johnson. Mary, you may now unmute.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mary Allison. I'm District 3. After the Supreme Court ruling this past week of Grants Pass v. Johnson, I just wanted to come and stress that my priority before Salt Lake City does anything else outside of a ceasefire resolution and cutting ties with Israel, I want us to house every single person in Salt Lake City. That's my priority. I don't want more police, stadiums, pro sports teams, restaurants, parking garages. I don't want a pay raise for my mayor until everyone is housed. And we can advocate for housing first, but if that is not the first priority, do we really believe in it? And after this ruling, I'm also afraid of another lawsuit like Barini versus Salt Lake City, where residents and business owners are defining being unhoused as being a nuisance. I want to clarify that I don't want people on the street housed because they're an inconvenience to me. I want them housed because it's their right to be safe. And I don't think we're at war with that. I think it's a choice. I think we're choosing not to do something. And I know Barini was dismissed, but I just think, what if the next case isn't? Human rights are up for debate. Trans rights, abortion rights, Palestinian rights, homeless rights. And so I want y'all to really protect people without housing and speak against the Supreme Court ruling, especially, deciding we should criminalize people who really just need care and, take responsibility for our failure and not punish people that we have failed who are unhoused. Thank you, that's it.
Next will be Steve Brosvik, followed by Rebecca Johnson, and then Keith Kerzik. Steve is in person.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. First of all, I just want to thank you all for so deeply listening and engaging in all of the dialogue around the sports, entertainment, culture, and convention district. This is clearly, as we know, a key issue for the future of this community. And we believe that Utah Symphony, Utah Opera, and UMOCA are both part of the cultural and rich heritage of this community and belong in this district and engaging in an active and rich way so that we can be part of this and help the city continue to grow and develop together. We believe that we can do that. We believe that there are creative solutions that can help us get there and that we can do this together. I also want to thank you for all of the ongoing support to Utah Symphony, Utah Opera for many years. We have been in this community since 1940. We have been in Abravanel Hall since 1979. Before that, we were 30 years at the Tabernacle performing for all of the community residents of this community. We're serving 350,000 people a year across the state, and that includes 130,000 students and teachers, most of which are within driving distance via buses to Abravanel Hall. We want to continue serving the community in at least that deep a way, and we need an extraordinary home to be able to do that. That is the core part of who we are, of what takes all of our musicians and their instruments and pulls them into one individual sound, which deeply moves people on a regular basis. As you're thinking of these important decisions that are coming ahead, we also want to make sure that you're thinking about supporting us through any disruption that we and our audiences might incur, because there's going to be a lot of construction. And even if nothing happens with Abravanel Hall and it stays exactly as it is, a lot is going to be happening around us. And many of our audience members might just say, we're going to wait it out and we'll see you in a few years. We want to make sure that we're finding creative ways for that not to happen, and we thank you for your support.
Next will be Rebecca Johnson, followed by Keith Karzik, and then Mercedes Smith. Rebecca's here in person.
I'm Rebecca Johnson. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I live in Sandy, but I have worked in Salt Lake City for the last about 52 years. 49 of those years have been as a member of the Utah Symphony. I played in the Tabernacle, and I played in Abravanel Hall in the first concert that was there. Although Abravanel Hall is owned by the county, it is located firmly in the middle of Salt Lake City. And so Salt Lake City has a very large vested interest in Abravanel Hall and in its future and in its fate. Multiple prominent architects in Salt Lake City have expressed support for the hall. It's been called a gem, a national treasure, and it has been called one of the great halls of the world. Several of our members who have gone on to other orchestras, such as Chicago and Boston and Houston, others have called this one of the best halls they've ever played in. I would like to urge the City Council to express to the county their support for Abravanel Hall, for keeping Abravanel Hall an integral part of the Smith Entertainment Group's cultural and et cetera, district. It's very easy, from what architects have told some of us, to integrate it, and it can be the eastern end of this wonderful district that's all connected and creates gathering places in Salt Lake. Abravanel Hall can be one of those gathering places. So I would just again like to urge all of you to please tell the county how important this building is, not just to the city, but to the county and to the state. Thank you very much.
Next will be Keith Karzik, followed by Mercedes Smith. Keith is here in person.
Hi, it's Keith Carrick. I live in District 7. I play in the Utah Symphony. I have for the last 12 years. So Abravanel Hall is not a city asset, but it is certainly a public good, as you heard from my colleague Becky and from Mr. Brosvik. The symphony and the hall are one. They are one thing. If we lose the building, the symphony comes under threat. The symphony can only be it can only sound as good as the building itself, and it can only serve the public as well as a building can. And so we're understandably, at least I hope understandably, worried about what that means for all of us, and that if this building goes away, the symphony may be significantly diminished as a result. And as I've mentioned to all of you before, we have done 50 years of work with every school child in the state, and that includes all of the fifth graders in this area. 50 years we've been doing that. We've been here a lot longer than the hockey team, honestly, and I think that deserves some sort of value and some sort of representation. And I do think that the City Council can express a preference over maintaining that building and that history and that place that we know works so well for all of us. So I hope that you'll consider doing that.
And next will be Mercedes Smith, who is here in person.
Hi, I'm Mercedes. I'm a Salt Lake City resident, and I'm the principal flutist at the Utah Symphony. At today's work session, a few of you commented that the Planning Commission might need additional training because they recommended preservation of Abravanel Hall, as well as earmarking funds for its renovation. They did this not because they are incompetent, but because they received a staff report prepared for them by Salt Lake City, which read, I'll read some quotes, quote, "The preservation of existing land use is within the authority of the Commission. The Commission could include a recommendation regarding the preservation of Abravanel Hall. Preserving Abravanel Hall is critical. While this proposal does not dictate the future of Abravanel Hall, the Commission can make a recommendation to the City Council, to the City Council to support, maintain, and improve the building." I'm still quoting from it. "Ultimately, any decision regarding the future of the building is up to the County Council, but the Salt Lake City Council will have a major influence on those decisions because of the potential funding sources." End quote. So that's from your own staff. So this does seem to be under your purview. Next to the assets, the application SCG made on April 4th indicated that 1% would be going to the city and that the remaining would be divided between SEG and the county's renovation of the convention center. So it does seem that some of these funds are going to the county per the application, right? SEG is getting $900 million. The remaining $300 million must be going to the county. So I asked that the City Council add a sentence to the participation agreement, which states, if the county decides to allow Abravanel Hall to remain in its present form and present location, then X% of the tax shall be allocated to its renovation within 10 years. You decide what percent. Thank you.
That was the final registered commenter.
Thank you, Taylor, and thank you to everyone for your comments this evening. We will move on to our next item. We have no new business this evening, so we'll move to unfinished business. Under unfinished business, we will begin with item F1 for a resolution for Public Utilities Revenue Bond Series 2024A.
Madam Chair, I move that the council adopt the resolution for the next round of public utility bonds and refer to the consent agenda to set the date for the hearing on August 13th, 2024.
Second.
It has been moved by Councilmember Dugan and seconded by Councilmember Lopez Chavez. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. That brings us to the consent portion of our agenda. I will look for a motion.
Move for approval.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Petro and seconded by Councilmember Dugan. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. This concludes our Salt Lake City Council meeting. The council's formal meeting now stands adjourned. Thank you.